Hello everyone, this is B Harper from supermarcy.com and welcome back to another review. Today I'm going to be looking at Iron Man 2, which came out in 2010, starring Robert Downey Jr., Gwyneth Paltrow, Don Cheadle, Mickey Rourke and Scarlett Johansson. Iron Man 2 was once again directed by Jon Favreau, and by this point he was riding so high off the success of the first Iron Man movie. Hell, everyone was. So of course everybody wanted to get back together and make another really fun time at the movies. And contrary to the somewhat notorious reputation this film has, shall we say, gained over the past couple of years, it still remains a very big box office success. And the reason why that is so is that, one, everyone loved Iron Man. Well, practically everyone loved Iron Man. Secondly, Robert Downey Jr. was colossally awesome as Tony Stark. So, you know the moment an actor signs up to a film, you feel a greater sort of almost obligation to go and see it? It's kind of like that with Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, because the man fits the role like a glove. And he still does in Iron Man 2, it's remarkable. And it also showed the prelude of the Demon in the Bottle storyline, when Tony Stark was starting to succumb to his alcoholism, as well as facing his own mortality. More on that a little bit later. So, yeah, as you all probably know by this point, Iron Man 2 has gained a bit of a reputation over the years, and that's primarily because I find, anyway, that it rides a little too much on the success of the first movie. And truth be told, it is so difficult to, you know, depart from what was already a very successful formula. When I first finished watching the film, the very first time I saw it, I joked to myself, what is this, the Robert Downey Jr. show? Because this film is all about Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark. I mean, the first film was his origin story, but Iron Man 2 continued to focus more on the Stark character because of what he was going through, and rightly so. Nothing is worse in a sequel than that doesn't have some sort of anchor to it, and Tony Stark is that anchor. He is the reason why this movie still retains its fun, among other things, of course, not to discount any of the other hard work that was put into this movie. But Robert Downey Jr. was undoubtedly the star of the show, and rightfully so. But if you ask me, my favourite part of this movie was the introduction of War Machine, played by Don Cheadle as Colonel Rhodes. Look, I know I wasn't a big fan of Terrence Howard as Rhodes, so I was glad that Cheadle came into this role. And I'll never forget, like, when Tony Stark is at the court hearing towards the beginning of the movie, Cheadle comes in, and this is the first time you see him. And, you know, Tony Stark is like, oh, what are you doing here? And Cheadle is like, I'm here, it's me, deal with it. So this was pretty much also Jon Favreau and the writers saying, look, we got a different actor for this role. He's here, so you may as well get used to it. And you know what? It works. It fits for the tone of the film. And of course, it also serves as the introduction to Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson. And you know, you don't need anybody to tell you how successful the character was, primarily because of Johansson's physicality. And truth be told, even though I thought it would be very interesting to have seen Emily Blunt as Natasha Romanoff, I still think Johansson did a good job. She obviously put the work into her role. Like, to say that she was lazy, that would be just foolish to say. That would be ridiculous. So to me, she was another sort of bright point to the movie, but I found that she was underutilized. I'm glad that her character was better used in the Avengers, which would be coming up. But at this point, she had just been only introduced, and she was still somewhat of a loose cannon in the franchise. Like, well, I don't necessarily mean loose cannon, but an unknown entity. Okay, this was the first time that we've seen her. This is the first time that we have seen Black Widow in a cinematic adaptation of any sort of Marvel movie. And bless the character, she's just become more and more popular thanks to Johansson's performance, as well as the writers who've given Johansson her material and just, you know, all the other stuff that helps put a movie together. It has benefited the character of Black Widow, so thankfully that's the case. Alright, so here's the thing. I don't mind Anton Vanko, aka Whiplash, played by Mickey Rourke. I really don't. I find that his personal conflict with Tony Stark is far more interesting than, you know, the fact that Vanko wants to make lots and lots of robots to destroy Tony Stark and everything. Maybe it's just because of Jeff Bridges' character of Warmonger in the Iron Suit in the first movie, that I kind of grew tired of the whole sort of robotic nemesis thing. I love robots, but you've got to keep these things fresh, and Vanko and his robotic army did not feel fresh in this movie. He felt like more or less a second-rate villain, rather than somebody who can genuinely pose a legitimate threat to Tony. Tony's personal demons in this movie are perhaps his greatest threat. He's becoming addicted to alcohol. He's trying to adjust to this life of being Iron Man, but it's all catching up to him. His age, his mortality. Here's the thing. Because of the terrorist attack that left him with his condition, that he had to build the arc reactor in his chest, pieces of metal have been beginning to sink into his heart, and, you know, of course, that would kill him. So, gradually, he's been trying to, you know, keep it at bay, but in the meantime, he's been poisoning his blood. And he's kind of on a ticking clock here, so he's trying to find a way to combat this, while at the same time remaining Iron Man. And it's not difficult for him. It's not easy for him, I should say. This is very astutely, for that matter, realised during the drunken party sequence, in which Tony Stark has pretty much let it all hang out. He's parading around in his Iron Man suit, and he's getting drunk, and he's got a DJ, and he's telling vulgar jokes about peeing in the Iron Man suit. And Rhodes comes up to him and says, "Look, man, stop it. So Iron Man, or rather Tony, like, challenges him, and he and Rhodes get into a fight in the Iron Man suits. Like, Tony's wearing his current Iron Man suit, and Rhodes is wearing the Mark II gear. So they're going at it, and you know, Rhodes is victorious. So he flies away in disgust, and Tony looks at all the other party guests who are still there, staring at him, and he just goes, "Ah!" You know, I know, when I do it, it's comedic, but in the movie, it's like he's seeing his reflection in the mirror. That's what he's doing. He's seeing his reflection in the glass of his house, and he is seeing the freak show he has become. All because of the fact that he has been weak with himself. He has not had the willpower. Another thing that I feel this movie isn't too bad at doing is the fact that it focuses on the father and son dynamic. Primarily it is seen between Tony Stark and his deceased father of Howard Stark, but obviously you have the mirror of Anton Vanko and his father. Vanko's father died because he didn't have the money and the profit that Tony Stark's father did. So Stark Sr. failed Vanko Sr. So Vanko was living in poverty, and he has Anton to carry on his family name. Meanwhile, Howard Stark was living in privilege. He had all the money, all the profit, all the pleasure, but he was still so distant away from Tony that it was as if their wealth like set up a wall between them. Now, in a sequence of which Tony Stark is just reviewing Howard's tapes, you know, he's just like sitting there and he's just like half listening. He's like almost falling asleep, and then the projection of Howard Stark, as if he's looking at Tony, says, "Tony, you are my greatest achievement." And, you know, call me sentimental, but I think it's a really good scene. So it does work with the emotional resonance of the movie and with the characters. Now, as for where it fails, once again, it more or less tries to depend on the magic established by the first movie, and that's completely understandable. But when you make a sequel, as I've said before, you need to commit to your material, and at the same time, you have to try and find a way to make it consistent with the story, but still retain the necessary freshness for it. And Iron Man 2 is half stale and half fresh. It's not completely bitter, but it's not completely savoury. Yes, I'm hungry, deal with it. But yeah, it's a mixed bag, I find, Iron Man 2. And it's nobody's fault, really, it's not. It's, well, if it's anybody's fault, It's a combined thing. These things are never straightforward, so the things that this movie fails on can also sort of fall back onto things that do work in this movie. And truth be told, even now, I do find a sense of satisfaction when I watch it. No, it's not as good as the first movie, and you get the sense that it's trying too hard with the humour. Now, that's not to say that Robert Downey Jr. and the script itself have lost any of the spark, but here's the thing. Some of the jokes become either sour or they just kind of fly over your head for the most part. And it's difficult to nail comedy, I get that. But, yeah, it's unfortunate when a script that is trying so hard and has some really great moments falls flat on its face just to keep you entertained. Once again, nobody should be pointing the finger at one particular party. In any case, everybody should take responsibility for the actions that they take, and Iron Man 2 is more or less an exercise in that. Is it the worst Marvel movie? No, it's not. I sincerely do not think it's the worst movie. I think it's kind of in the middle. But more often than not, I will sit down and watch this movie and still be massively entertained. So yeah, I can't believe I forgot this, but War Machine. War Machine is fantastic to me. Yes, I do love Iron Man, but I also love War Machine. I love the fact that you have two best buddies working together in these badass, mechanical suits, and the way War Machine is decked out with the cannon on its shoulder and all the weaponry and everything. When I saw War Machine being, unveiled officially for the first time, I admit it, a part of me went, I know, that's pathetic of me to say, but it's true. I really love it when a film shows you something you want to see and, tries to find a way to make it stick. And I found that the introduction to War Machine was great, because it sets up not only the conflict between Tony and Rhodey, but just, further and down the track, as you obviously have seen in Iron Man 3 already, that, Tony Stark and Rhodey are still working together. There is a sense of consistency here, and it starts in Iron Man 2. So I give Iron Man 2 a 3 out of 5. Like I said, not as great as the first movie, but it is difficult to capture the magic. It really is. So yeah, I will see you guys later, and thank you once again for listening. Ta-ta for now.